Welcome to Pandora, and check this out. You can fly up into the clouds with your Ikran dragon mount, jump off it mid-air, and then skydive back through those same clouds towards the Kinglore forest below. But that's not the coolest thing, because you can then take out your longbow and fire an explosive arrow at the patrolling helicopters to then blow them out of the sky, to then remount and fly off into the distance. Now, this is just one of the highlights I experienced in this game, thanks to Ubisoft, who very kindly flew me out to Sweden to play their Avatar Frontiers of Pandora game in their massive studios. So what I'm going to do here in this video is take you through each mission I played and explain what all of the gameplay mechanics are, as well as take you through the positives and negatives and provide you with a solid overview so you understand what this game is all about, so you can kind of make a really informed decision on whether this game is worth your time, attention and hard-earned cash when it does release on December the 7th. Now, what we're looking at here is the start of the 2-hour demo I played in 1080p 60 FPS, where we'll need to locate and then gather a nectar or mangrove plant out in the forest, which will then need to return to our quest giver so we can experience a vision that will subsequently progress the story. And speaking of which, it's important for you to know that you don't have to have watched any of the Avatar films to understand what's actually going on in this game, even though the whole purpose of the game's design is to live out your Avatar fantasy in Pandora, as confirmed to me by the Associate Director Drew Rancher. In fact, the premise of this new Ubisoft title begins when our character was abducted by humans who were running the ambassador program on Pandora, which takes place before the first film, by the way, and essentially trains us to be this anti-Navi, so to speak. And that program is shut down during that first film, thanks to Jake Sully, where our character in this game is then placed into cryosleep for 15 years, which is when we are awoken or woken up by another Navi, and then we have to learn all of the Navi culture, which is essentially what we're doing here in this quest and in this game, trying to build our favor with one of the 3 clans who are very suspicious of us because we grew up with humans and learned their ways. So that's the basis of the game, which takes place at the same time as the Way of the Water film, which has just been released, even though there's no water-based creatures in this game, with all the regions, biomes, and a lot of creatures being brand new to the series. And even though the producers of the film work closely with the development team, it's largely a new universe that is still canon, but it does have a lot of film Easter eggs throughout the game if you're a fan of the franchise. Now, I'm just running around through the forest here. You'll notice that I keep activating this purple vision that then highlights points of interest around the map, and this is called Navi Senses, which is activated by pressing the RB or R1 button on your controller, which you will have to use a lot of during this game to get your bearings. I found that anyway, because it does reveal the mangrove nectar plant that we're after for this quest, but it also reveals main quest objectives, locations, and allows you to track humans and animals. There's also 2 different types of exploration settings in this game. The one you're looking at right now on your screen is the guided mode, which means waypoints and map icons will show up on your screen when you're playing, kind of gives you a helping hand. But there's also an exploration mode where you'll need to figure out everything yourself, which is a bit more hardcore mode if you fancy that. And it will be tough to actually play the game in that mode because this world is very dense, and I found it quite hard to navigate through the trees, plants, different biomes and weather systems because it becomes incredibly dark in the evenings, kind of what you would expect in a forest or in a world like this, which is good, but yeah, it does make it a little bit challenging. Now, as you can see here, I've located the mangrove plant, which is highlighted in yellow, but I'm just going to go ahead and pause the gameplay here and zoom in because there's this harvesting system in the game, which is a core gameplay mechanic that you cannot ignore because you'll need to pick plants and fruits with the ultimate goal being not to damage them as you do so. Now, you do this by rotating your joysticks to find the correct angle, and when it does become loose, you can then press your RT or R2 button to successfully pick it off its branch. Now, the rarer the plant that you find, the more difficult this will be, and it will also grant additional bonuses to the fruit or item when you pick it, because you will then need them to actually craft high quality gear. And in this example, for our first quest, we picked it during the day in pristine condition, which means I picked it correctly with my controller during the daytime. So if I had actually picked it during the night and not lined up my joysticks, these 2 additional bonuses wouldn't be added to the fruit and we couldn't benefit from them at our crafting bench. Now, if you've played Far Cry Primal before, this will be a similar mechanic to you, as you do need to collect a lot of resources from hunting and gathering in this game. And even though I was expecting something like this before playing, I'm personally not particularly a big fan of these kind of mechanics in open world games, as I find it quite tedious and repetitive after a while, because it means you have to stop what you're doing, like clearing an outpost, for example, and you have to leave and go and manually search for this stuff, like branches to then craft new arrows or new food, if you know what I mean, and it just becomes quite boring in my opinion. But yeah, just know that this plays an important role in this game when it comes to harvesting resources and upgrading your cooking recipes, gear, and weapons. Now let's run to the quest hand in here, which I think is a good time to mention that this game is a first-person player game, by the way, if you didn't know, with no third-player perspective possible unless you're flying, which I'll show you how that works next. Incidentally, even though it wasn't shown to me, you can create your character at the start of the game, which is very cool, but you're not actually going to see much of your character because of this first-person mechanic. And the reason behind that decision was because the development team wants us to feel like we're the ones playing or exploring Pandora ourselves in first-person mode, as they believe it's a more immersive game experience in that first-person perspective. And when you watch some of the cutscenes, to be fair, I can really see where they're coming from, because a lot of these cutscenes, a lot of this dialogue that you do have with other Navi throughout Pandora, it can be and is very captivating at certain points, which is a positive in my opinion. Additionally, what I do like about this game is there is also the option to play co-op from the beginning of the game, with your story and side mission progress saved at the same exact points as your friend, which I think is good. You can also trade resources with one another in the same session, which I also think is a positive. Now, if you've learned something new or you're enjoying this breakdown so far, please do leave a very quick like down below. It really does help me out on YouTube, so thank you very much. Now let's move on to getting a hold of our flying mount, which is called the Ikran, that the devs described to me as a cool looking dragon creature that bonds with a Navi for life. And this quest is all about traversing up through this dense forest-based rookery to tame and bond with your own Ikran, which I really enjoyed. And that also brings me quite nicely onto the movement in this game, because it feels like Far Cry 6, to be honest with you, with a little bit more freedom in terms of traversal, because you can jump, slide, crouch, sprint, and even charge up a double jump to reach platforms that you wouldn't think possible. That said, there's nothing here that I would say is groundbreaking or makes me feel like I'm playing the new Assassin's Creed VR parkour game, for example, being in that first-person mode, because a lot of the areas in the game are designed to be climbable due to the Navi being very agile, so you can kind of just run at anything you can see and spam your jump button to get up on it. That's what I did anyway, within reason, of course, and I did find that I could actually just get up to that ledge just by hammering that jump button. There's also these plant puzzle games throughout explorable areas in Pandora, where you'll need to manually touch smaller lily pads, as you can see here, that then cause the main lily pad to retract, and then that will then open up a passageway so you can move on through. This is also followed by these springboard blue plants that throw you forward in certain areas to reach different platforms that you wouldn't have been able to reach with your double jump. And if you combine them with these vine lifts, that will then allow you to traverse vertically in the world by holding X or square. You actually have to hold it down on your controller. You can then get yourself up to ledges that you, again, wouldn't have been able to with jumping or just spamming that jump against a particular wall like I was doing earlier. Now, again, nothing here is incredibly innovative in my opinion, but I would be lying if I didn't enjoy springboarding between platforms and grabbing onto a vine lift in quick succession to cover a lot of ground, as you can see here, because it is satisfying to play when all of these kind of things flow together in one after one another, as you do really feel that you're kind of flying through the forest at quick speed. This is also a good time to mention the music, because it is a very big highlight here for me. I think it is honestly very excellent. It adds to that immersion, because as confirmed to me by the development team, there is absolutely no looping of sound when it comes to the ambience or environment in this game. So each area will sound different depending upon the time of day that you do appear there or you do go exploring there. And there's also 6 hours of orchestrated music, which you can hear in the background, that triggers during certain quests, just like this one that you're kind of watching now. And that really contributes to this immersive experience in Pandora that Ubisoft are trying to transport us to, and it's another positive in my opinion. Now, as we get to the top of this rookery, we can tame our Ikran and also name it, which I think is a really nice touch. And in this case, through my playthrough, I thought I would name my Ikran Carol, which was a very fitting name for her, in my opinion. And even though I can't show you the game menus in this preview video, you can change the appearance of your Ikran, which I also thought was a really nice touch from the developers from a customization standpoint. Now, flying in this game is perhaps the biggest highlight for me, as I really enjoyed it, and it wasn't too hard to master, as you navigate left and right with your left analog stick on your controller and up and down with your right analog stick. There's also a standard boost system by pressing X on your controller to increase your mount speed for a limited time in the air, as you can see here, where you will need to feed your Ikran to replenish it if you do spam it a lot. You can also dive, hover, and land wherever you want in the game, which I also really liked. It gave me that kind of exploration freedom that they're trying to get at here in Pandora, as well as the low-level flying animations and the wind resistance that actually comes with it, as you can visually see it here, impacting the water and ground, which I really did think was very terrific. Immersion building and world building for sure. And this is where the developers loaded me into the following quest after I kind of flew around a bit, where we actually needed to fly to the specific floating platforms. And this was our first taste of combat here through the playthrough, which was defended by the RDA human faction, and we had to destroy, or we're going to destroy, these radio transmitters that are causing issues with the local Pandora wildlife. And this is where another cool gameplay mechanic comes into play here, because you can dismount your Ikran at any time during flight, as I showed you at the start of the video, to then use your weapons to fire in midair and then remount by pressing up on your D-pad controller. You can also shoot the pilots and gunners out of their helicopters, which I found very satisfying to do, as using your weapons while flying is quite challenging, as you'd expect, as that's another one of the reasons why I liked it so much, because the enemies would absolutely nuke you if you just hovered stationary in midair whilst firing arrows at the choppers, which I found really engaging and challenging. Now, I also want to show you this hacking mechanic in-game, because it's another mini-game that you can turn off in the settings. I did double-check that to kind of bypass this if you find this kind of stuff annoying in-game, but it will be required a lot throughout your playthrough, because kind of like Spider-Man 2, you'll need to control your L2 and R2 back buttons on your controller at just the right pressure to get the first circle to line up with the second circle, which will then unlock this terminal. And once you're in, you'll then need to navigate your way through this electronic mini-game maze puzzle until it's hacked, unlocked, and then you can destroy this fuel source underneath the platform. And after this was done, this is when our first enemy outpost opened up during my playthrough, which are these big industrial factories that are harvesting resources to fuel the war machine in Pandora, that are heavily guarded by enemies. Now, these are your standard open world bandit camps, which I'm sure you will be familiar with if you've played open world RPGs from Ubisoft before. But the cool thing about these outposts, in my opinion, is that when you clear one of them out, the pollution it creates is then diminished. It kind of disappears as Pandora begins to heal itself, which is then visible on the map and in person when you come back and revisit later on in the game. You also earn lots of cool loot, extra resources, and crafting materials to upgrade your equipment, which is essential in this game. The developers also told me in person that when you reach the max level of 20 in this game and have finished the main storyline, hardcore fortresses will then spawn throughout the map, offering further replayability, kind of like The Division 2 if you played that game, which makes sense as Massive Studios also made that game. But whilst I'm chatting to you here about replayability, I think it is good to mention that there won't be a new game plus option in Frontiers of Pandora, with no alternative endings for the story, as it is very linear. So when you finish the narrative, that's pretty much it, to be honest with you. But more on expansions and DLC shortly, because when it does come to combat, the game does reward you for playing in a stealth-focused manner, as killing all enemies in the outpost won't actually clear or complete the enemy fortress, unlike other open world games, as reinforcements will consistently respawn until you turn off the power of that fortress per se, or kind of blow up certain generators, which is intentional because bullets, grenades, and arrows are in short supply, and the game will punish you for going too aggressive in open toe-to-toe combat, so to speak, as you will get nuked very quickly in this game, as you can see happen to me. I've kind of put that to the test multiple times, as you can see here. Now, even though the game tries to encourage you to play in a sneaky stealth manner, you'd expect some cool stealth takedowns, and unfortunately there isn't any, which I found really disappointing, to be honest with you. In fact, when sneaking up on humans, you can only perform a punch animation, as you can see me do here, which is quite funny to see the first time you do it, as the enemies do go flying if you time it correctly. But on the whole, I do think this is an area which could be a lot better, in my opinion. Now, as for the AMPs, or the mechs in this game, using your hunter senses, you can highlight the weak points to do more damage. You can also hack them and override them temporarily, so you can then run up to them and perform an instant kill takedown, which I enjoyed performing several times over, but they can be very quickly nuked with your assault rifle, which I found incredibly overpowered. The caveat being, bullets are quite hard to come by in this game. In fact, let me run you through the available weapons while we're on the topic you can equip in the game as you watch me clear this outpost, because there is no melee weapons in Frontiers of Pandora apart from your fists, which I've just shown you. So everything else is just range based. And starting with these available Navi weapons, we have the longbow, which is your standard generic damage dealing bow. We then have the heavy bow, which is a long range high damage dealing sniper rifle of sorts, followed by the short bow, which is a SMG equivalent bow. Apparently we didn't actually get to play this in our playthrough. We also have a spear thrower, which we didn't get to play either, which is essentially as just throwing a ranged spear, as you might expect, and a staff sling, which throws grenades at an extended range. Now, as for the human weapons, we have the assault rifle, the shotgun, RPG, and stun grenades, so quite a variety to choose from here by utilizing the famous Ubisoft weapon wheel, which should be familiar to a lot of you. But just like the Far Cry 6 or the Horizon games, you'll need to craft your ammunition for all of them, which can become a bit of a pain if you're clearing an outpost and haven't come prepared. And after I turned off all the generators in this outpost, I flew to the top of it and deactivated the final generator to complete this mission, and that was the main playtest quest lines finished. I was then able to explore and complete a few world quests in the game, such as freeing animals from captivity thanks to the RDA, which were pretty simple, such as clearing out a group of AMP mech suits. I also would love to walk you through the skill tree, crafting menus and infantry menus in this game, but Ubisoft have said no for now. But what I would say about them is they are exactly like Far Cry 6 as a recent example, where you can customize the look of your character cosmetically, mod your weapons with different offensive and defensive bonuses, and craft special legendary items and gear from recipes you find out around the world. And what I would say about this game on a whole is, if you like open world RPG games from Ubisoft, such as your Far Cries, your Divisions, Assassin's Creeds, more most recent Assassin's Creeds, and your Watch Dogs, I think you'll enjoy this game for what it is, even if you're not a massive Avatar fan, because the world is beautifully made and incredibly immersive when you're flying around exploring. However, to manage your own expectations, don't expect anything game-changing or wildly different here from a gameplay mechanic perspective, which I do think is fair to say from everything that's been shown to me so far, as all the content here has been seen before across multiple different Ubisoft games. It's just repackaged into an Avatar format. That said, this will be a live service game that has a season pass and 2 expansions within it, confirmed to me by the world director when I asked him about post-launch DLCs. So there will be a lot of Avatar content coming to you over the next year if you fancy giving this game a go. And if you do, please consider using the AndyReloads creator code option next time you're in the Ubisoft store for anything, actually, as it helps support me directly. So genuinely, thank you very much. Now, if you'd also like to see some more pure gameplay footage of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora without my dulcet tones in the background, give this video a click on your screen right now and hopefully see you there in just a second. Big thanks to Ubisoft and Silvia for the invitation to their amazing Massive studios and to meet all of the incredible people. Coffee is definitely on them, and thanks very much for stopping by.